And through the drifts the snowy cliffs did send a dismal sheen, nor shapes of men nor beasts we ken, the ice was all between. Welcome back, I'm walloficecream, and this is Brawl. So we haven't had a chance to play the last two decks. Last time we played Jund, this time we're playing Wild Bounty, the Bant deck. So let's inspect the deck. I do have sort of a feeling of what the other two decks had in them. We played against all of them at some point. So she'll be playing against Chulane, Teller of Tales. 2/4 Vigilance. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, and you may put a land card from your hand into your battlefield. And 3, you can return a creature you control to its owner's hand. So sort of like a curfew effect, one-sided. So I guess an unsummoned effect for just yourself. We got Spectral Sailor, very nice card. Fairy Vandal, very interesting. Flash Flying, Incubation Druid. So I think Fairy Vandal is just a filler at this point, just bouncing the curve. Incubation Druid's very good. Cruel Harpooner is good. Leafkin Druid, just for ramp. If you control 4 more creatures, add 2 green instead. There isn't too many creatures. It doesn't seem like this is like a purely creature deck. It looks like this is a balanced deck, so we'll have to see where it goes. Silhana Wayfinder, when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it on top of your library. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you don't get to draw a card. You basically like a brainstorm, except you don't draw more than you put back. It makes it a lot worse. So this is filler. Biomancer is familiar. Activate abilities. Creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. There's a lot of speculation here that people were going to use it for Urza or maybe like Rebels, Tribal. Maraleaf Pixie, blue-green, 2/2 flying, tap add green or blue, excellent creature. Runaway Killer. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players, return those creatures to their owner's hands, so this actually is a curfew. It costs 1 more than curfew, which I don't like. People don't understand how... I didn't understand how good curfew was when I was a teenager until someone showed me a curfew. Curfew could be like you just regenerating a creature. If you just like lightning bolt a creature, you could curfew your creature, save it, and bounce your opponent's creature to be like kind of like a fog. I didn't get to see too many copies of curfew played, so I can understand why it got another extra colorless mana. Growth Spiral is very good. It's played in many decks. Arcane Signet, we played it yesterday. Excellent card. It's like a Felwar Stone, except for 3 colors. Tome of Legends, 2 colorless. Enters the battlefield with a page counter on it. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, put a page counter on Tome of Legends. You remove a page counter to draw a card. So this was spoiled quite recently. I think it's like a very good Jam Day tome. You might just run out of counters for it at some point, but from like cards like Serum Tank, which is 3 colorless and like 3 to draw a card, and you can only draw a card if you played an artifact. Serum Tank was excellent even in Mirrodin Limited, so I think Tome of Legends is actually a good card here. Steelbane Hydra, this is terrible. Remove a counter from destroy an artifact or enchantment. Forbidding Spirit. When there's a battlefield to your next turn, creatures can't attack unless they pay 2, so you get a propaganda effect. District Guide. You search your library for a basic land card or gate card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library. This is nice. It's a better version of Sylvana Tracker. Jesus, I'm blanking on the card. There's a card that does green too. That does the same thing, but it's only for basic land cards, and this is basic land cards and gates, so it's technically better. Rosethorn Acolyte. green 2, adventure. Add 1 mana of any color for 1 green. It's terrible, it's bad. Manamorphose, but it doesn't actually cost you a card since you get a Rosethorn Acolyte anyway, and adds 1 mana of any color. Gyre Engineer adds 2 mana, which is really nice. There's Fyndhorn Elders that add 2 mana. There's like Orgovian Elders that tap to untap 2 lands, but that's 4 mana, and this is 3 mana. So this is on par with like a Llanowar Elder. Risen Reef is the heartthrob of the M20 set. Everyone knows the card. It draws cards. Prison Realm is a kind of like an Oblivion Ring, except it only does creatures or planeswalkers, so it's kind of a worse Oblivion Ring. They threw in Scry 1 to make it a little bit better. Here we have Incubation Incongruity. Incongruity exiles the creatures, put a 3/3 frog token in play, so it's like frogifies monsters. I like how Simic introduces this like frog concept of just changing creatures into 3/3 creatures, because blue's creature destruction has been god-awful, green's creature destruction has been god-awful. Green had Unyarrow Beasting, or Beasting, which is a reprint of Unyarrow Beasting, which is 2 damage to a creature for green 3. Or Roots was actually the best green destruction spell, which is like green 3, and a creature that's tapped stays tapped forever. So that's the closest green had to destroying creatures. And then we had Beast Within, which just turns creatures into elephants. And if you're going to just have a color that's bad at destroying creatures, at least make a tolerable creature destruction card than Unyarrow Beasting. Incubation, you get to look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal a creature card from among them, and put it in your hand. What's in the bottom of your library in any order, so it's fixed Ancient Stirrings. Let's see. We have Shark to Crab. Shark to Crab, do. It's just filler. In my opinion. It's 4/4 for 4 is just a great body. Adapt is a plus if you're going to do it. There's better stuff now. There's Dungeon Geists now that you can get a 3/3 flying that can tap creatures an opponent controls like forever for 4 mana. So the power creep has kind of made Shark to Crab worse. Compared to ancient magic cards, ancient creatures where you have to pay 5 mana for a 4/4, it's much better. Frilled Mystic, better Mystic Snake, harder to cast. Circuitous Route, search your library for 2 basic land cards and gate cards, put them in play tapped. There's been cards like this. For green 3, from Nemesis, if I can remember it, it just puts search your library for 2 forests and puts them in play untapped. But for if you don't want to get forests, to add the clause into basic lands as opposed to forests, then they come into play tapped for 4 mana. It's just, I think, balance. Firemind Vessel adds 2 mana of different colors, so it's like a double Felber Stone. Coming into play tapped, which obviously is bad, but I think people thought Thran Dynamo was just too powerful. Sisei's Ring was just a little bit too weak to play, and Thran Dynamo was a little bit too strong to play in Commander. So here's a best of both worlds. Fairy Formation creates a blue fairy token with flying draw cards. That's very powerful, and 5/4 body is nice. Keeper of Fables, we played against it and it absolutely crushed us. Having an Edric ability on a fat body. And non-human doesn't really matter that much. There isn't that many humans, so it really just says whenever a creature deals damage to a player, draw a card. Time Wipe, I like Time Wipe. It's not Supreme Verdict, but there's just such variety in board wipes. If it's like Winds of Wrath or Chroma's Vengeance, or I like the variety. So we have Flower, search library for basic forest or plains, doesn't do much. Flourish could actually do something, but 6 mana cost is not very good for +2/+2. It should be like +3/+3. But I think the power level of both are just lower because it's split, but at least Flower will just balance the mana. So I've noticed, like, there's a lot of non-land cards here. If you look at Firemine Vessel, Frilled Mystic, Time Wipe, and we have cards that are depending on creatures. You need 4 creatures to add 2 green, and we have a Time Wipe, which is anti-synergistic with Paradise Druid 2. So this is kind of like a weaker deck than the other 4. I can understand why we played this, I think, only once. Beanstalk Giant, searches library for a forest card, put into your battlefield, search for library. It's an Untamed Wilds. There's no other way to explain that. Beanstalk Giant's power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control, so it's a 7/7 for 7. I love Nightmares. I think people don't play like Nightmare cards enough that have this ability. They like looking at cards that have high prices and price guides, and people like looking at cards with good power and toughness ratios. And the problem with that is you really need like a huge library of cards inside your mind to realize that cards like Beanstalk Giant exist. Where you can get like 7/7 creatures for 4 mana in Magic the Gathering, and you're like, just give me an example of one. So, otherwise you're a liar, and I can just say, like, look at the 0/0 creatures, look at the star/star or asterisk/asterisk power and toughness levels, and you'll be able to find a 7/7 for 4 mana. It's just conditional. So when you're like building beatdown decks, you don't actually have to like stare at the Wild Nacatls and Watchdogs of the set for good power and toughness to mana cost ratios. You can just look at the stars' power and toughness costs, and you might be able to build a couple of cards like that. Like throw in a Hydra with your beatdown decks. Otherwise, the card's terrible. Meteor Golem saved me my life in Moment Basics. 4 War last time. Endrace Forerunners, it's a Crater Hoof Behemoth. It just ends the game for 8 mana, which is the best you can ask for it. This doesn't end the game at 8 mana, but it's 13 attack power. Makes 2 White Angel tokens with Flying and Vigilance, so 2 Serra Angels. Itself is First Strike and Vigilance, which means if your opponent doesn't die for 13, you can actually tap one of your White Angels with Vigilance to block with Parhelion II. Unfortunately, the percentage chance in your games where you get to cast Parhelion II is very low, and what might happen is just a top deck war where both of you are mana flooded, and you top deck Parhelion II, it doesn't actually win the game, and your opponent actually top decks a creature that kills you. So you actually need a creature in play to crew with power and toughness greater than 4 or greater, in order to crew Parhelion II. Oh, excuse me, not power and toughness. For a 3-color deck, once again, we only allowed 1 of the non-basics. So we have 1 Azorius Guildgate, 1 Tranquil Quove. We're not playing 2 Tranquil Quoves because it's not allowed. We're playing Brawl. And we're playing exactly the same Blossoming Stance and Selesnya Guildgate, just for mana fixing, because we don't want to get mana screwed. So for total lands, 25. Seems like a lot. So it looks like instead of playing with 24, which I would, because we're also playing with Leaf King Druid and Paradise Druid, it looks like they're really focused on starting the game with 3 land hands and really focused on not mana screwing opponents. And mana flood isn't that big of a deal since you can recast your commander if he dies. So mana flood isn't that big of a deal. So they put in extra lands. In a competitive deck, you would still be stingy in your lands, even with a commander, even though it might restrict your ability to cast your commander again, even if your deck is built around your commander, just because the power level of cards outweighs the power level of lands a little bit more. But since we're playing with a lot of uncommons and even commons here, then the lands get a little bit more powerful, basically. We actually wish for lands a little bit more than just drawing a common card. So let's try to play a game. So anti-synergistic decks have a place in Commander because you get 100 cards. And you might actually not get your non-bows, but on 60 cards, the anti-synergies might go up. This is fine. I think this is a 7-card hand. 7-card hand. Okay, so a lot of ways we can do this. I think we're fine with just a Temple of Mystery, just trying to get land for our food. Well, that's fine too, sure, I don't know. So I think we'll go for Flourish for this part because we kept Firemind Vessel, so we can do turn 2 Signet and turn 3 Firemind Vessel. And then we can just go to freaking town. And Respectful Sailor, draw a card. We're fine, thank you. That's a good play.
Here, ramming speed.
We could block here, but, gee. Yeah, I think this is okay, because we can run away together, with Chulane and Landfinder or whatever.
You'll burn for that.
Okay, this is nonsense. Yeah! Level 16. Easy peasy. And we get a little orb. Orb. We get a Dungeon Geist. We were just talking about him. Taps creatures and doesn't untap as long as you control Dungeon Geist. It's not just doesn't untap during its next untap phase. So this is a better Shark to Crab. Verity Circle. Brian Cutthroat. It's useful in flash decks. Alright, so let's try this one more time with one last deck. Friends, Wall of Ice Cream has a Facebook page. Check it out and send your fan mail to Gmail or ideas for new content. And see my previous videos at Yudioshlet. Not Wall of Ice Cream yet. Getting to 100 subscribers and I'll change it to Wall of Ice Cream. Or you can come play with me on PlayStation. My username's Wall of Ice Cream, and see me on Twitch, Wall of Ice Cream. I might be there on Sundays. Thanks for watching.